in the Taranaki region, there are a lot of dairy farms. They're really reliant on road transport networks to get their milk products out of the farms. They require a huge amount of water, and they also require electricity to run milking sheds. Infrastructure outages would have massive indirect impacts to the farming industry in Taranaki. The length of these outages is highly dependent on the style of the eruption, the duration of the eruption, and other environmental factors, but definitely we would have significant outages if there was to be an eruption.
So the first step to preparedness is to make sure that you're ready to run your farm with no access to electricity, with no surface water supply, and without the ability to get to town. So what I recommend is that all farmers have a generator on site and be ready to run it, that they have access to alternative water supplies, and have a really good supply of food and medicine for your animals and your family. Really having a good supply of diesel to run your generator, having a good supply of filters and seals for your equipment, and one that's really useful for cleanup of machinery is to have an air compressor available to you.
So the processes that will probably have the most impact on rural communities are far-reaching processes. So this is mainly in the case of the Taranaki Maunga, Lahars and volcanic ashfall.
So it's really important as a farmer to understand where you are in relation to the volcano and the types of processes.
Ashfall can have physical and chemical impacts to a farming system. Physical impacts are things like the ashfall smothering the pasture and not allowing for water and gas exchange to occur, which prevents growth. Ashfall can also have chemical impacts to the pasture in terms of altering the soil fertility characteristics. They can also be an acidic component to ash, which can also damage the soil structure and the vegetation. So if we have an ashfall around late winter, early spring, we would expect there to be much more severe impacts to the farm. At this time in the year, farms usually are running low on supplementary feed because they've used it through those winter months, and it's also a really key growth period moving into the next season. So a smaller amount of ash may cause comparatively more significant impacts. So even a few centimetres could be quite catastrophic. It also depends on the environment that it occurs in. So if we have ashfall, a thin ashfall, so 5 mils, something in that kind of order of magnitude, and then we have a period where there's rainfall, the impacts may not be as severe to the pasture. One of the reasons that we worry about ashfall is that we really don't want livestock ingesting large amounts of ash. This is for, again, chemical and physical reasons. So in terms of the chemistry, cattle in particular are prone to fluorosis, which is when there is excess fluoride in the ashfall that is then ingested by the animals and causes things like dental lesions, misshapen hooves, and eventually death. So we really don't want that to happen.
Supplementary feed that hasn't been contaminated with ash is going to become even more critical. So maintaining that good supply, if you are financially able to do that, is something we highly encourage.
On the physical side of things, if they're ingesting large amounts of ash, it can cause stomach blockages and gastrointestinal distress, so we really don't want that.
The next stage of preparedness is to think about building a shelter for your animals. So if you have a covered feed pad, for instance, on your farm already, you're already halfway there, because that's a place that you can take your animals to feed them their supplementary feed and keep them safe from ash. If you haven't already, consider that.
The main thing that farmers can do to prepare is really understanding their risk.
Well, the good news is for farmers, they can be, if they're prepared for a volcanic eruption, they'll be prepared for a whole range of other hazards.
One of the big things is just being prepared, having a plan, knowing what level your feed stores are at, having a generator, fuel supplies, and listening out for those key messages coming from Taranaki Emergency Management.
So please take a look at our Ministry for Primary Industries website for more detailed information on what to do before and during a volcanic eruption.